Hey, and welcome to the Leadership Lab YouTube channel. This is a channel for new and aspiring managers and leaders. When you're a new manager, whether you're totally new to the game or you're new to a team, the worst thing you could do is jump in and try to change everything because you feel like you are obligated to or that you're required to. Now, what you really want to do is sit back for the first 2 weeks and audit the things that keep the team running smoothly. What I mean by that is sometimes there are integral people in the team or integral teams within the team that are helping to make decisions, running key meetings, and frankly, doing things that you don't have to do. So the first thing you're going to do is audit those different processes and workflows. It's incredibly easy to misread culture as a brand new manager. You might think that it's your job to come in and change that culture when in fact there are parts of that culture that are already running like a well-oiled machine and you have to do absolutely nothing. But in some cases, you do have to change some of the things about the culture, but you're not going to know that on day one. So it's really important for you to audit this in your first couple of weeks. The first area that you're going to audit over the first 2 weeks as a new manager is first you want to understand the communication style of the team. Who talks to who has to talk to who, and who doesn't talk to who. I think these are really underrated things to carry out as a brand new manager, to understand who has that dynamic and who has that dichotomy of leadership amongst the team. Sometimes you may have silent leaders amongst the team that are handling a lot of different tasks. And other times you have very vocal people in the team that may not be doing much of anything. And you need to audit those things and understand who your leaders are and who you can trust to delegate some of those leadership tasks to. The second is decision making. That means who is making what decisions. Yes, technically you are making a lot of those decisions, but really good leaders delegate decision making to the people that they can trust. So going back to the very first point, if you can trust someone who is already doing a lot of those leadership tasks, you can delegate some of that decision making to them. Think about all the different decisions that are made throughout the day, probably hundreds. It's not fair or an actual expectation of yours to make hundreds of decisions a day. Instead, you should be empowering your team to make many of those decisions, and they should be coming to you with the hard decisions or the very impactful decisions. So understand who is making those decisions on your behalf. The third is understanding how conflict is handled. So I mentioned that there are maybe some vocal people and some silent leaders, and in some cases that can cause some conflict. So understand the give and take relationship of conflict there. Sometimes those things work themselves out very easily and on their own, sometimes daily. And other times those things fester. And it's your job as a leader to see that from a mile away, to understand the different communication styles of those people. Now, it's also very possible that conflict brews quickly and it explodes. Now, when that happens, you need to understand that is now your conflict to handle. You cannot expect the team to handle conflict on their own once it becomes an actual issue. It is your job to understand the communication style, the different decisions that are made and who's making them, and the conflict that can come from that. The fourth thing that you're going to observe in this first observation period in your first couple of weeks is understanding the rituals or habits of the team. That is, if you have a weekly meeting, when is small talk happening? Is small talk happening in the beginning? Does someone start that small talk? Are they looking to you as the leader to start small talk? Or do they want to just get right down to business? Do they maybe at the end spend some time talking about their weekend or things that just are a little bit lighter than work? So understanding the different ways that your team communicates with one another. Sometimes you might find someone in a break room. Sometimes you might see people talking in the hallway. Observe those things. Don't feel like you need to jump in or interject yourself. Just simply observe in the first couple of weeks. Second thing that you can do in your first couple of weeks is ask your team the key questions that you need answers to. Now, what I mean by that is your team already knows this culture. They know it's working really well, and they know what's not working really well. So simply ask them. You don't have to wait for a one-on-one. You could just grab them and take them for a walk. You can very informally ask them, hey, what's working on the team? What do you guys really enjoy about working on this team? Now, they're probably going to give you a lot more in that answer than what you asked for. Just simply asking a question, an open-ended question, is going to yield a lot of different answers. And don't feel like you need to write it down. This is a very informal conversation. You're just curious what's working really well. Now, your job as a leader is to work on the strengths of the team. And your job as a leader is to also listen for some of the inflection in their voice well, these things aren't going so well, or this could be better. That's where you take mental note. So it's great to build on the things that are going really well, but it's also your job to understand where your team member might be hinting at something that's not going very well. And it's okay to dig into those things. Just don't lead with the negative. Some other really important things that you can do as a leader, as a new leader, is in your meetings, and we all know you're going to have dozens of them per week, so you're going to have plenty of opportunity. It's okay to listen for the first 2 weeks and really listen. Who dominates the conversation? Who's silent? Who has a lot to say but not a lot to do in terms of action? There's a lot of these different dynamics amongst a team where you can learn a lot just by listening. So in one case, you can ask that very pointed question, hey, what's working really, really well on this team? And in another sense, you can sit back in a meeting and just simply listen and watch body language. Who's engaged? Who's taking notes? Who's following up on those notes? Who can you trust to go to delegate certain tasks to? Because you know exactly what their leadership cadence is in those meetings. It'll tell you a lot. Now that you've observed your team's communication style, who's making decisions, and what conflict can arise, as well as who is making those key impacts amongst the team, maybe in meetings or by asking very pointed questions, you can now run effective meetings of your own. That means you can take some of the strengths that you heard from your teammate earlier on in the week and you can apply those to your meeting. Maybe you open a meeting with small talk because your team has told you, whether they outwardly told you or they told you by you observing that, you can open a meeting with small talk and don't feel like you need to engage after you've asked that question. So an example of this is, hey, what's everybody doing this weekend? And you can sit back and listen. Now, remember, you're a new manager, you're new to the team. There's a trust factor here that you have to build. You might get crickets, and that's okay. Do not feel like you need to fill in that space. It's okay to have awkward silence. In fact, you're going to have awkward silence. It's okay. And just simply move on. Hey, what's everyone doing this weekend? If you get crickets, you wait a second and you move on. Now, if you ask the question and it starts some small talk, now you're starting to build some trust. Throughout the week, you have also observed who's making key decisions, but you're also observing who is looking to you to make decisions. Now, technically, everybody's going to or should look to you to make those decisions. But it's also okay for you to set the expectation of how decisions are made. In some cases, key decisions should always run through you, and you could set those expectations. But in other cases, if you have folks on your team that are leadership ready and battle tested, you can simply say to them and set those expectations, I trust you to make decisions. Just make sure I know about them before it happens. That's not them coming to you to check in. That's simply them telling you, hey, here's what I'm going to do, and this is when I'm going to do it. If you read the book Extreme Ownership, that's a key concept within the book. If you think about folks who are in the battlefield, quite literally in the military at war, they don't have time to ask questions about decisions. All they have to do is go on the radio and say, hey, I'm going to do this. Now, there are times when their leader might say, hold on, I need to double check something, and that's okay. But there are also times when someone says, hey, I'm going to do this, and we have a sense of urgency, we have to do it now. That's true leadership. Empowering your team to make decisions because they know you trust them. Now, as a new manager, this is going to take time, but you can absolutely build on small decisions and show them that you trust them, and they in turn can show that they trust you. You want to be very careful not to have all decisions run through you for two reasons. One, you might alienate the team like we talked about earlier. But two, you're going to bog yourself down very, very quickly. So it's okay to relinquish some of that control and delegate those decisions. And in the process, you are building leaders and trust amongst your team. And the last point here, this is from the book, The New 1 Minute Manager. But this is also something that I've always practiced as a servant leader. And that is praising unseen work, right? So catch someone doing something right. When you see someone doing something, or you read an email that's really well written, or someone takes action on something, it's okay for you to publicly say, hey, I just want to give kudos to Dan. He did X, Y, and Z this week. Well done. Simply move on. Because here's the thing. A lot of people don't like to be called out, whether good or bad. They don't like to be the center of attention. However, everybody loves to be praised. There's a balance there. There's a balance for you as the leader to simply acknowledge them amongst their teammates, to lift them up and lift the morale so that the rest of the team knows, oh, this leader is capable of this. of praising me in front of my peers. Most folks like that. It's a simple, hey, I noticed you did this. Well done. Move on. And maybe in a one-on-one, you could spend a little bit more time on what you really liked about it and how you felt about it, and let them know, hey, I've made note of this. Great job. So as you've seen, this channel is called the Leadership Lab. I also have a Leadership Lab Skool community where I deep dive into a lot of the information around new leadership and new folks in management. And if you are a new manager, maybe you're reluctant to lead and you are leading people that you've never asked for, or you are a brand new leader and you want to be the best leader that you can be, that Skool community is for you. There are freebies within that Skool community. There are people there that you can ask questions to, post your comments, and there are paid courses that you can really, really deep dive and do workshops, live workshops with me to help hone those skills. I'll drop that link here below. If you like this video, subscribe and comment here. I want to know the 2 culture norms that you've noticed as a brand new manager amongst your team. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the Leadership Lab Skool community.